I've been training people for 16 years or just over, and I've seen a lot, learned a lot. Um, we've had a whole different kind of people, from younger, older, struggling with their health, all sorts of conditions, and I've always tried to take them on and do the best we can with them, and learn from them as well. And I guess the key message from what I've learned and seen is that strength training works in um, any shape or form. So no matter where you are right now, there's something that you can get out in a positive way from strength training. And one thing, I guess, it can have a lot of benefits, but one thing that I've got out of it from, I guess, showing I can do this is confidence. About 20 years ago when I started doing weights, I was pretty shy. I didn't talk to many people. And over the years of exercise and probably other things, I've challenged myself, as some people know, and I've succeeded in some challenges. I've failed, but I've learned from those challenges, and the end result is that from those challenges, I've gained confidence in myself and know that I'm better off from trying these things. And that's why I'm here doing something completely different to weights or exercise, but it's still about that level of confidence, knowing that I'll be able to get something from this as well. And that's one thing regular exercise can help with a lot. But I wanted to start today by asking you guys some questions. Hopefully I'll get some responses, but the term strength training, what does that mean to you? If anyone would like to answer. Nice. Anyone else? That's all right. We'll nice, Kate. That's good. And the second part of that is, if you do strength training already, why do you do it?
Become stronger and change the fat on your body into muscle.
Good one. Does anyone else know why they would do it, or why someone doing it would strength train?
Mobility,
Yeah, nice. Has anyone heard about the benefits that we're going to talk today with longevity, with strength training? A wee bit? Yeah, nice. We'll hope I can clear that up on you. Strength training has heaps of benefits, so there's no real wrong answer there. Where's my mind gone? Like I said, it's helped me with confidence. It can help you build muscle. It can help you with mobility and stuff. And but today we're here to talk about strength training and the benefits for longevity. And I want to start with these pictures here, which is nothing more than a Google search of two different ladies, which I searched for, not ladies, but people in their 70s, one struggling with life and one succeeding with life. And this is what we got spit out. And it's not all about exercise, but obviously one image shows someone that is struggling with life and needs support and assistance, and another one shows someone that could possibly do anything. And these are good picture examples, but it's not just pictures, because I've seen both those kind of people at the same age, late 60s, early 70s. One that has literally come in here on a Zimmer frame, and we've still helped them and tried our best with them, and one that is, could do anything really if they wanted to. Same age, background of how they got there, obviously different. Someone's done some work, someone's waited till they need the work to be done, and that's okay, but the result from that is going to be worse than the person on the right here. And it's not just about the ability to exercise. I mean, that's obviously good, but it's about the quality of life you get from exercise, which is the next image, which is when we're old and how we're living life. And this is one that demonstrates how you might interact with grandkids, or how an older person might interact with grandkids. One obviously being in hospital, struggling in some way, the grandkid has to come to see them. Another one playing with the grandkid, doing a press up with the grandkids on the back, which is really impressive. Not that you've aimed for that, but it's just good comparisons. And the message behind this whole thing is what we do now at any age will result in which picture you end up with, or what we don't do as well. And I also want to reiterate that obviously the person in the photo on this side has benefited from what they do with their training and exercise, but it's not just them. There's a downstream effect from that person. And I want to give myself as a real life example, because I've got parents and I've got kids, and I would be in the middle of that. I have a father, myself, and then 2 kids on my father's back. And I'm very fortunate enough for my 2 kids to have 4 very fit and able grandparents. And that benefits me and my wife because they can look after my grandkids, their grandkids, my kids, help us with our parenting. We can send them off to stay the night, give us a break, which is a huge benefit for us and helps us manage our life better. And it also sets a standard and being a role model for myself as well as my kids to see what an older person can do and looks like, which is really important. So it's not just about yourself, although that can be a helping point. Sometimes it can be a stronger point to think about the benefit to others as well, especially people we love, and how they can see yourself and what that means to them. And so that can be a big driver as well. And then the opposite of that is, exact opposite. This person here might see their grandparent as someone who's old, and that's what happens when you're old, and that's just the way life is. And the whole thing behind this message and what I really want to get out to people is that your later stages of life is really a choice of what you do now. And the way we see society is, in terms of an older society, is through a lack of choice, which has really come from a lack of knowing, because this longevity research has only really been out for 5 to 10 years to my knowing anyway. So, if you didn't know, you can't do much about it. But now we can do something about it, and we know this stuff works. We've really got a choice of how we want to age. And these are 2 great examples, hopefully. But we're here to talk about strength training first. So I asked you guys what strength training is, so I'll give you my opinion or my knowledge. It's a weight-bearing exercise, and that weight could be gravity, it could be a resistance band, it could be obviously a barbell or kettlebell or dumbbell. There's many ways of putting resistance against your body. It doesn't have to be an actual weight. And a big key part of it is that when we do strength training, we want to progress. Okay, and most people will. In fact, all people will. When they start exercising, they'll progress somewhat. And often, without help, but not always the case, they'll stop progressing. And there's nothing really wrong with that, as long as it's a decent level. But to get stronger, we need to look at progressing ourselves in some way in what we can already do. There's no other 2 ways about it. And I just want to talk about, cardiovascular exercises and how that compares to strength training. So someone new to the gym or new to exercise and they started running, they would get stronger. So there would be a strength element in that. Their legs will get stronger, their core, their glutes. To a certain point, after that, they just build endurance. Someone doing weights, then adding running to their program, could possibly get a bit weaker, depending on how strong they are. That running would sort of bring them down a wee bit. So although cardio can be a form of strength training, it's very minimal. It's a good place to start, but strength training through resistance exercise, through weight-bearing exercises is the way to go. Biking, the same thing. Walking, same thing to a minor effect. And swimming is one exercise where there is no strength element at all. Good for the heart and lungs, but there's no impact on the body, which is really important, as you can see there. That will force the body to get stronger, which is something I'll talk about soon. Also, as I go through this stuff, if you have questions, please feel to stop me and ask, or you can hold them to the end. But I really want you guys to understand this. So if there is something you're not understanding, then just let me know. With a muscle, every single muscle in the body has 2 different types of fibers, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is what we call slow twitch. They are made for endurance. They can last a long time, and they're smaller muscle fibers. Type 2 are the opposite. They last a very short amount of time. They can be very powerful, and they're quite big. And the best way to picture this as an example is we've got a marathon athlete who, as you may know, is quite a slight figure. They wouldn't look like they've got much muscle on them. They don't. They'll have a lot of type 1 muscle fibers, which are small, which means they can go a very long time, compared to a 100-meter sprinter who would be the opposite sort of shape. Quite muscular, quite a bit bigger, and the speed they run at lasts a very short amount of time, so very powerful. Type 1, type 2, this is important for how we age. Whether you know it or not, everyone starts losing muscle at the age of 30 to 35. So that's just a thing that happens. But the type of muscle we lose is more or less unknown, which is more type 2 muscle fibers. And the reason we would lose those much quicker than type 1 is because we don't use them. Type 2 muscle fibers have to be used through powerful movements. That's the only way we can grow them and keep them, maintain them. Type 1 muscle fibers are easier to maintain. Just walking around, standing up. Me move my arms like I am with my gestures. All part of working type 1 muscle fibers. Very light, something I could do for a long time. So we're good at keeping our type 1 muscle fibers, but we're not so good as a general point of view of keeping type 2 muscle fibers. And that can only be maintained or built through some form of strength training. We have to do powerful movements. And the powerful movements, anything sort of under strength training within the space of like 15 to 30, 40 seconds, which you may have experienced with weights. If you're going above that, we sort of get into more of an endurance phase, which isn't too bad. But we want to try to keep it within that time frame to get the maximum benefit, where you go 30 seconds and you're exhausted. And if you think about that 100-meter sprinter again, they're going 10 seconds maybe 15, depending how fast they are, and they're exhausted. So that's the time frames we're looking for in terms of training those type of muscle fibers. And with the aging process, we tend to see an acceleration of loss around your 60s onwards. But all this data that we know is from people that haven't done strength training before. What we don't know so much of is how someone ages when they strength training all the way through. And I don't mean ages, I mean in a way how muscle loss occurs. Because there's very little research. Not many people have aged to 80s, 90s and been studied to know how much muscle they've lost if they've been regular trainers. But what research would say is minimal compared to what would happen without. And then I want to talk about a term called supercompensation, which is how we grow muscle. So when we exercise a muscle and work it really hard in a powerful way with some sort of weight-bearing exercise, and let's just use a calf muscle for an example. So I might be doing a calf raise up like that, or a single leg calf raise, or doing it with weights and really trying to put some pressure through that for that 30 to 40 second time frame. And what will be happening with the calf muscle is it will be tensing and pulling at the same time, and we'll be just creating little tears through that calf muscle. So we're literally injuring ourselves in hopefully a very minor way. Not just the muscle, but the muscle has a wee tendon that comes off it that attaches to the bone. That strain will be going through the tendon, it'll be pulling on the bone. That bone is connected to other bones through ligaments, and that whole structure is getting some sort of pull on it or force against it. Hopefully to the correct amount where it just rips a wee bit. It's slightly injured. Would feel this probably through the next day or two sometimes, particularly if you're not used to it, which you might have felt before. Delayed onset muscle soreness. And then a term called supercompensation comes in, so that muscle, that whole area realizes the damage that's happened to the body, it doesn't like it, so it regrows and compensates and adds a wee bit more muscle around the calf, the tendon, ligaments. Everything just gets a bit more firm but stronger in a very minor way. And that process would be exercise recovery, soreness, supercompensation, and then go again. And that might be like an ideal 4 to 5 day process. So if you're exercising, doing weights in the highest level, so working really hard for that time frame, it'd be ideal to have like 4 to 5 days off before you do it again. If you're doing a small amount, you could get away with more, but if you're always doing weights to a certain degree, then we don't allow that supercompensation to happen, and we never fully recover. And that can often be shown down the track after 8 to 12 weeks of being like that, where something breaks, we get a wee injury, you get sick, body gets worn out.
That's if you're just doing the same exercises all the time, isn't it?
No, you can do the same exercises. It's just the gap between them and the intensity at the time. So if you're doing a lighter weight exercise, we can do that more often. But if we go hard, like I'm talking about, really focus on our strength, lift as heavy as we can, or put as much resistance against our body as we can, then we want that 4 to 5 day process at least. And that's even with someone who's well trained. So if you're not well trained and you're new to it, you might want a wee bit more. However, if we allow it to happen and then we don't come back to it, so it's been like day 1, we work our calves. Day 2, we're recovering, we're sore. Day 3, day 4, supercompensation comes into play. Then say we go through to day 10, 11, 12, it just shrinks away. So then everything you've done is sort of back to where you are, if that makes sense.
So that's why when you go on holiday, you come back and you don't feel as strong.
Yeah.
That's why you've lost.
Yeah.
That benefit.
Yep.
Because you're not continuing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And another point, since you bring that up, is people that, for lack of a better term, overtrain or train too much. They go away on holiday, say for 10 days. They finally get a recovery, a full recovery. They can come back feeling stronger. So the opposite could happen. If you're not allowing your body to recover fully, say for 6 to 8 weeks, and then you have a good break and you literally let your body rest, you could get a full recovery and you can come back feeling a bit stronger. But at some point, then we'll start shrinking away again. Hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, strength training is a big part of how we live our life and the quality we live. Longevity is a concept which we can work towards, but isn't always up to us. We can't really determine how long we're going to live. We can do the best we can do the best about it, but it's not always up to us. What we can do though is maximize our quality of life to our last days. And that comes under the term health span, which I'll explain in a second, but I just want to touch on one framework which is being youthful with what we do. As I said before, I've got kids. I've got a 3.5-year-old, and his main joy at the moment is jumping around. And I know that's putting a big impact on his body, but it will be helping him grow into a stronger child and bigger person one day. And that stops, well, he obviously loves doing that, but that stops because at some point we don't like doing it anymore. But that's what keeps us young, that's what keeps us strong. And if we think of someone the exact opposite in their 70s, 80s, we never see them jump. Why is that?
Worn out.
Why are you worn out? Yeah, you just warming me out, Kate. That's what I wanted to hear. But that is part of it. If we stop being youthful, which is not a normal day-to-day life, we play sport through high school, we might play a wee bit after school, then we become an adult, have a family, have kids, have a job, all that just goes out the window. We come back to it one day, you might get back to the gym, or a personal trainer asks you to do a box jump, and you're like, what? And then you try and you get it, but it's lost and you feel sore and it's not right. But that's part of aging well, is looking to be youthful. if you can do these things, jump and sprint and hang off monkey bars, things like that, then how could you ever be old? And why can't you do it? And as Kay pointed on, if you can't do it, you probably stop doing it too long and it's hard to restart. Anyway, health span. Health span is the life you live free from disease and physical decline. So in society today, there's a big difference between lifespan and health span, where people can live quite a long time, but they're being kept alive through medication and all sorts of things, and so their health span is shorter than their life. And what we can do is maximize our health span to be near equal, if not equal, to our lifespan. That's the best thing we can do with exercise. We can't really control our lifespan, but we can control how free we are from disease and physical decline and things like Alzheimer's disease through exercise. And no matter how long we live, we can enjoy quality of life. So it's a key term to try to expand our health span as much as we can, because we're in control of it. That will make sense? Cool. And that brings me to the centenarian decathlon. So the whole idea of this is to train for longevity, but what does that really mean? And that is sort of up to you. And the centenarian decathlon is a framework that allows us to think, if we were 100 years old, what are 10 things we would like to still be able to do? And those are pretty simple things, which I've got examples of, which you can read there. But at the end of the day, it's personal to what you would like to do if you reach 100. And it's not necessarily about that age 100. It's your final year of life. What are you doing that brings you joy, if anything? Or are you living that through hospital appointments, feeling sick, not being able to see people, not being able to do things, missing out on life? So these are just examples, but it's a really good idea to think of what situation you'd like to be in. And when you start thinking of those ideas, we can build back and create exercises for those ideas. Exercises that hopefully give us more reason to do and understanding why we do them, because when we get to 100, we want to be able to do this. And if I use these ideas as an example, which I think are pretty generic, but you can go any way you like. Wanting to play with and keep up with grandkids, or great grandkids if you get to 100, I guess, is the ability to get onto the ground, if they're that small, possibly roll around with them, get back up. So we're looking at getting down to the ground as normally a lunge movement, on the ground, rolling around, a bit of core strength, pushing up from the ground, a press-up movement. And they're not have to be big, hard, heavy movements, but that's what you have to do to be able to do that. Going traveling locally or around the world, like carrying suitcases, time on your feet, moving suitcases, being unaware of situations that could come across you, which can be mentally stressing as well. Shopping, carrying bags. These are all pretty simple things, I hope, to you guys right now. But if you think of someone generic in their 80s, all probably tough things to do.
A very good example.
Would you like to share? Yeah.
Just been in the news.
He just turned 100, yeah.
And he does not look 100.
Yeah.
And he's still filming shows and da-da-da. And then I think it's like my mother at 82. And it's like night and day.
Yeah.
In the aging process.
Yeah, I'm sure old David's had a few things helping him out and done a fair bit about it. And I assume that adventure lifestyle is one way to keep pretty fit and strong. I wouldn't know his background, but as a good example. Getting up and down from a seat, opening jars, using kitchen utensils, cooking yourself a meal. Like, easy stuff right now, but how many people in their last few years of life can actually do that? Climbing up the stairs without assistance. Not that that is required, but it's a good goal to aim for, to be able to walk upstairs without a handrail. So yeah, just some key ideas to think of to help us bring more reason to why we might exercise and why we're doing the exercises we are. And once we've got that, hopefully there's more reason to exercise. We keep doing it continually for life, and we sort of commit to that. We have to look at why we might stop. And not always by choice. We have good intentions, but things can get in the way. Life happens. We get off track. And how do we deal with those situations? When we have good reason to exercise, we really want to. I want to be able to do this, but I'm going on holiday, I've got a parent to look after, I've got kids to look after, I've got to do this, work is really busy. All those reasons, which aren't excuses, they're good reasons. As I said, I've got 2 young kids. I've felt the pressure of trying to find time to exercise when you haven't slept well. You feel like you've got no time in the day. But when it means enough to you and there's good reason behind it, you find a way. And there's another framework there, which I don't know if it's on a slide or not, but it might be written here. Is to adapt a 3 workout option. So we have an ideal workout, which might be coming to the gym here and doing a normal weights workout or whatever you might be doing that day. The second option is something smaller. So you could go outside for a walk or run. You might be able to do a wee workout at home. So like something 20 minutes. And then there's a bare minimum option, which is a 5-minute routine. And I would hope you'd agree that it's pretty hard to argue you can't do something for 5 minutes. But we don't, because we don't think it's worthwhile. But I'm telling you, if you want to do the things I mentioned before, 5 minutes can go a long way. It doesn't take much to train for this sort of stuff. A lunge, a press up, lifting weights if you've got them at home. It doesn't have to be lifting weights, but lifting buckets or something. But if you did say 10 press ups, 20 lunges, 2 times round, roughly 5 minutes, that goes a long way. Don't underestimate the power of little stuff. So if we did that every 3rd day, 2nd day, say 3 times a week, forever, then why wouldn't you be able to do that when you're old? Ideally, we'd do more, have a bit more focus around stuff. But if that's the bare minimum you can get away with, it works. Don't discount it. And it allows us to realize we don't have to go 45 minutes to an hour 3 or 4 times a week for the longevity purpose. There's other reasons why we might exercise. But for this case, something simple with resistance at home would go a long way to keeping us on track for living a long time and living a great time. I want to finish off with some facts about exercise and longevity, which I'll let you read and sort of explain a wee bit. The billionaire one, I think, is a good mindset one of, it'd be pretty cool to be a billionaire. Lots of money. There's about 2,000 odd of them at any one time, but that's just one form of wealth. Time we live, especially quality time, is another form of wealth, which people think less of in general, and you see it is a lot rarer than being a billionaire. 110 years old is bloody old, but there are roughly 200 odd people in the world at any one time that are 110 or older. And you'd have to think if they're 110, you've probably had at least 95 to 100 good years, if not more. So you'd have to argue that's a pretty good life. And this one, the grip strength one, is the best indicator for the onset of dementia. And the grip strength is just a really good proxy for full body strength. The weight we can hold in our hands, whether down by our sides or hanging from a bar and holding your body weight, determines how strong we are through our neck, shoulders, upper body, and then picking weights up off the ground. If you are to hold them, you still have to have good, strong legs. So you have to have a strong body to have a good grip. They can't really get away with it. You can't sort of cheat that test. And then strength training and fitness training, although cardiovascular training is number one for longevity, strength training is the second best thing, but those two together are more powerful measures towards longevity than anything else we can do. A few other things that are important, obviously, is nutrition, hydration, sleep, our social circle, emotional health. Those things do play a part, but when we look at exercise and we're doing fitness and strength, those other things normally come into play as well. If we are exercising, we're more motivated to look at what we're eating, what we're drinking. We're normally socializing with other people, talking to other people, making friends at a gym or at a Wednesday night talk. And our mental well-being is a bit better as well. So they sort of help each other, although if you focus on other ones, it would help, but it sort of plays a downstream effect from exercise. And yeah, as you see, Elite VO2 Max has a 5 times reduction in death from any cause. The biggest killers in Western society are cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and Alzheimer's disease. Those 4 things is going to kill most people in the Western world at some point in time. And even if we do live a really, really good life, our heart is going to fail at some point, or our brain. Like, that is just part of life. What we're trying to do is push that back until we're at least 110. But that is still going to get you one day, most likely. Other than that, obviously, accidents happen. Another one, just pointing out the fitness point of view. If you're VO2 max is a measure of how fit you are, how well your lungs and heart work, really. If it drops below a level of 15, you'll struggle to live independently. This one here sort of goes along the lines of what I said before with grip strength. If you're strong and fit, you've got robust blood flow. Blood flow comes from moving our bodies, our heart pumping a bit stronger, blood pumping around the body, keeps our brain healthy. And yeah, the last one there. On average, you live a decade longer if you exercise regularly. So hopefully some good points, some good information. The last thing I want to leave you with is one we quote from JFK, which is the idea that we need to work on what we want to be like later while we can. As I said at the start, I've seen someone walk in here on a Zimmer frame, which is great that they're trying to do something about their current condition, and it's not too late to change things. But that person's progression compared to the person that's exercised for life is completely different. They will only get so far, as much as they try. Where someone exercising throughout their whole life is really up to them. They'll have a decline of some sort, but how much they will decline will be minimal and some unknown. I know other trainers that are still doing personal best weights in their mid-40s, which is sort of unheard of. They've been lifting for 20, 30 years. They're really strong people, and they're still doing better than they ever have before. I know 40s is young, but if they're peaking in their 40s, then you'd think that would last a very long time. So the time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining. Hopefully the sun is shining on you guys, and thanks for listening to me. Is there any more questions or comments? Cool. Nice. Thanks, guys.